Barcelona Health Hub is a non-profit association with the mission of promoting digital health innovation and its transfer to the medical practice. We are already the largest digital health hub in Europe, but we have the potential to continue to grow and consolidate our position as a top-list global hub. For this reason, we present the key points of our strategy.
The Hospital de Sant Pau aims to provide an environment to validate the solutions and technologies that will shape the hospital of the future.
We believe it is essential to create a benchmark training center in digital health technologies and knowledge.
We want to create synergies and collaborations between the different actors of the healthcare ecosystem.
We consider it important to establish an incubator to help create and promote innovation initiatives that will lead to solutions for our health system and have international projection.
One of our main pillars is to attract venture capitalists, both national and international, to all the digital health projects that are being developed in the hub ecosystem.
It's a great opportunity to convert new spaces within the Art Nouveau site, to expand those dedicated to innovation in digital health.
We will consolidate our position as a relevant communication channel and opinion leader in digital health.
We create and provide the technology needed to transform the digital health sector.
It will be wonderful to create a health innovation center dedicated to technological transfer to clinical practice.
We promote innovation in the medical community. That is why we support the Barcelona Health Hub in this mission.
We will increase the hub's connection with other Spanish regions, with other countries and continents.
Now more than ever, healthcare systems face major challenges. Our mission is to impulse all these innovations in order to bring them to the patient. This results in a more scalable, inclusive, and personalized healthcare. Contact us and let's start collaborating. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this new episode of BHHSeries. My name is Aline, and I'm the Chief International Officer of Barcelona Health Hub. BHHSeries are monthly online events that we've been organizing since March last year, at the beginning of the lockdown, around topics related to digital health. And we're doing this for and with our members and other experts and guests from all across the world. So the new episode today is organizing collaboration with Digital Selection, a recruitment specialist company helping both companies and individuals to thrive. So we will talk about human resources, talent acquisition and management, remote work, and much more. So, mark your calendar, because on the 9th and 10th of June, after that session, Digital Selection will organize open office hours at Barcelona Health Hub and online for you to come and meet them to discuss your specific needs. So we will talk about that a bit later in the session today and share the link with you so you can book your slots. But without further ado, I would like to introduce our speakers today. So first we have François Joly, who is the founder of Digital Selection, and he will be moderating the panel today. Carlos de la Paradella, Director of Clinical Solutions for Europe South, Israel and Latin America at Elsevier. Kim Frederick Schneider, CEO of Abi Global Health. And Paz Alvaro Lozano, Group Digital Marketing Director at Unilabs Groups. Welcome everybody, and François, all yours.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. First of all, thanks for attending this session. A special thanks to Paz, Carlos, and Kim to be joining me and to be speaking about the different topics Aline just talked. A quick word on digital selections. We are headhunting consultancy specialized in both IT and sales, marketing, C-level recruitments, basically. And during these sessions, the goal is to be able to have a point of view from health, pharma, and a startup point of view about the challenges of, let's say, recruitment, employee engagement, all that's been happening with last year, with 2020, it was been a bit busier, and especially with COVID, to be talking about the new way of working and talking about the topic of remote work, the implication it's had on both recruitment, talent strategy, and employee engagement, basically. Who wants to start about that regarding the since the pandemic has started and the impact of COVID? What is your take on those different topics, recruitment and onboarding and employee engagements? Anybody wants to start?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can start.
Perfect.
Okay, well, I will let
Thanks.
Carlos and Kim to give the recruiter perspective, but I think I can share my personal experience and as one of the ones that has changed job during this pandemic. So I've been through a whole 100% virtual hiring process. And from the candidate perspective, I would say that I learned, the thing that I have seen that has changed is that I've seen a lot of new opportunities to take a role that is not in the city where you live, no? In the past, I remember that being able to have like an international position, it was quite hard because you had to be in headquarters or you have to travel a lot. But I think this situation is opening us a new opportunities to be able to take a role, staying in the city where you live and not having to travel a lot. So that's one of the first thing that I've seen from the candidate perspective. The second thing is that this situation is forcing us to move from the storytelling, to when you are participating in a hiring process. You need to have the creativity and the flexibility to be able from the storytelling to doer. You have to play a more active role in the hiring process because you are not going to have the possibilities to have these face-to-face interviews or those amount of small details that you have in a present interviews to be able to take the decision. So you have to be very creative to be able, to pick it up the information you need to take the decision. So for instance, in my case, during the hiring process, I remember asking to meet most of the management board, because the virtual process makes things go faster. So I asked to meet all the management board. I also asked to present a business case, to be able to really understand if my way to do things was what was expecting from them. So I think virtual hiring is going to stay for a long because it's providing diversity, but it's also providing a speed to the organization. So I think we really need to learn on the way. There is you need to take risks and you need to do things different way. And there is not like a guide, a manual that you can follow. It's just doing by learning.
Yeah,
perfect.
Taking onto what Pat was saying, from the recruitment perspective, also attracting talent and e-talent and talent for health, it's critical for us at Elsevier. So one of the things we started doing because of the pandemic and because we wanted to attract people was to showcase what we do, who we are, and take care of our employees, and especially in this last part. So now home working, so not being able to contact people and having less social interaction creates more difficulties in creating culture and sharing values and principles. So we started by, let's say, creating brand ambassadors. Brand ambassadors are people who are passionate about what they do in the company, and they explain to the public and to all people interested, how do we work here? What are the things that interest us? What are the things we share with potential talent that we want to discover? And that made it easier to discover people who were interested in the same things or sharing parts of your passion, which is sometimes very personal. And this kind of thing is changing the way we recruit. It's more showing how we do, each one of us, to the audience, and then attract this kind of, well, you do these kind of things, I like what you do, and I like the way you do it. And this is something, like Pat was saying, that is going to change in the future, I think. Or it's changing right now, but it's going to change more in the future.
Yeah, our experience, I have say I was at the beginning of this experience that we've all been through. I was quite worried. I think when you particularly in the early stages of a company with a startup, there's an enormous amount of cohesion that comes from being together. We've always had 2 offices, but still people back and forth, and that physical time together, the spontaneous ideas, the creative suggestions. And I was quite worried actually about whether we'd be able to keep that kind of dynamism and that kind of interaction alive. But we learned very quickly. We had immediately had a few moved home, so to speak, and quickly spread out. And that experience kind of opened my eyes to the possibility of working remotely and the impact on recruitment as well. So suddenly, where we might be looking only in one city for recruitment, now we can spread the net a lot wider. And particularly for challenging roles like development roles, that is an enormous advantage. Are cities where you have a different but not much depth of talent. You don't have a lot of choices. There's a lot of competition for a lot of roles. And I think the ability to, the fact that we've all been forced to create more flexible working models, I actually think is a big advantage when it comes to recruitment.
Perfect. Thanks a lot for your takes on this. And regarding the teams that you do have working together and working in transversal with different teams, how is that working? Do you see it more productive? Do you think a flex for a post-COVID situation, with a flex situation with a bit of office, a bit of remote is going to be best, or remote might be an option?
From my perspective, I think each has an advantage. I think the flex is the way to go. I think 100 remote, you're losing something, but I have significant advantages to remote as well. I mean, in that sense, I suppose there are always some members of teams, for example, sales, who tend to be on the road. He's been working in this kind of in and out of the office way, and extending that to the broader company. I think it makes a lot of sense. But I do not believe that the days of the office are over. There's still something wonderful about gathering physically, and I think personally for our business, a flex approach is the way to go.
Carlos,
Carlos, what do you think? From my side, I have mixed feelings. I have to be so. For certain dynamics, like when we work in a specific product development or a project, it requires, as Kim said, a close interaction. You have to discuss, you have to see what the body language of the other person is, or the several persons involved in a decision, all the stakeholders in the same room. It's easy to manage. When it's online, when you have to use some stickers and things like that, and you have a big screen sharing with all, etc., it doesn't work very well. Dynamics are not that good in online. But I think the word flexible is the one we are going to choose, all of us. I mean, flexibility for certain roles. The account managers that are selling things, they love to be at home selling because they cannot. They would love more to be with the customers, but they cannot. And certain other roles are, they fall in love with being at home, more quiet life, etc. So to me, understanding this flexibility and the needs of each aspect, each stream on the business is essential to give people the possibility to work better.
Okay, thank you. Paz, do you want to add something?
No, I was going to say that for sure we're going to have a mixed model. There is a lot of advantages of being able to work remotely. And in my case, and I was sharing at the beginning, it's been amazing to have the opportunity to run an international position being in Madrid. But I think what we would need to make this mixed model succeed is to be able to have things like a strong culture. I think that's basic, to be able to be in different locations, but all behaves and share the values, So I think that's one of the key points all the organization need to put a focus on, no? To make sure that these mixed models work and stay for a long time. No?
Perfect. Thanks. And rebounding a bit from this need in culture regarding the employer branding side of things, what do you think has changed, or how do you see it evolve?
I would say that in terms of employee branding, and I'm not an expert, but I don't think it's going to change due to COVID, because I've seen changes before. If you think about the new generations, or you know that everybody's expecting more than financials and product and service info from the organization. No, so people is expecting like purpose. People is expecting other things. They want to generate positive impact. No, so I think companies have been working for a while in terms of communicating in a different way, sharing what they are doing beyond the products and services. And also, there is so many companies already involved in the digital transformation, involving also the HR team. So I don't think COVID is really changing in the employer branding. Said that, what I think is happening is there is a lot of communication going on due to the COVID, or governments, public institution, organization. We are all, sending a lot of message. So we, as a companies, we to make sure that we find the right way to connect, creating a long-term relationship with customers. No, so I think one thing that for me is quite important and quite innovative is to get the human resources and talent acquisition closer to marketing. We can learn so much about marketing campaigns, to be marketing techniques and strategy, to be able to connect in the same way with talent. No. So, for instance, social marketing is something that we all use for promoting services or promoting products, but I haven't seen many companies using it just to create external talent pool. Why don't we, connect with those people that maybe in the short term you don't want them to be part of your company, but in the future they can be potential candidates for position in your company. So I think companies need to start looking to innovative ways to connect in a medium long term way with potential talented people.
Thanks, Passa. Carlos, Kim, what's your take on that, on employer branding?
Yeah, from my perspective, I was talking before about the fact that this situation has opened up the talent pool, but that's a two-way street. So it also means that, the company that might have been hiring only from your local pool of talent, now you have companies all over the world competing for that talent. And I think that makes employer branding even more important than ever. I think suddenly, whereas you may have been, the hottest company in your city, are you still the hottest company in your country, or in your region, or in the world? I think that ending your perspective and how you look on the broader market, and in some sense having a more international perspective, is going to be really critical. I think this is actually one of the biggest challenges for medium-sized countries like Spain. The little countries, they know that they're little and they immediately become international. And the very big companies, they're in an environment that's very dominant. The medium-sized countries, they often are in a position where they feel like they're in a big enough market, whether that's for clients or in this case for talent, that they don't need to worry about being international. But it doesn't have the sort of massive size you would get from a truly large country. So I think that any employer in Spain needs to consider what are the implications of the fact that there might be companies from a much broader set competing for the same employees as me now. And what does that mean from my employer branding perspective and just a talent acquisition perspective generally?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, following what Kim was saying about this market now becomes global, and I fully agree with that. You can hire people from everywhere, Colombia, Spain, etc. And now everyone speaks English and other languages, so it makes it even more easy to do so. So from our side, our perspective, there's one very important thing that has changed. I don't think it's because COVID, it's because of the culture, as Pat mentioned. And the culture has evolved inside the company to show not just what you can do as a talent in my company to develop my projects, my solutions, etc., but what the company can do for you. So this is one of the most, I think, big changes. So now companies, to attack these talents and the recruitment processes, they tell you how are you going to grow. It's not that you are going to grow because you want to grow. It's I'm showing you people and pathways to grow inside my company with different products, markets, and even countries. So I think this different perspective of showing to you what I can do for you because I care about the talent and I care about your development is some of the things that are going to change in the future. And we see more and more, not just benefits or salary, it's more the things we are going to do for you to realize you, to have the best version of yourself. And creating this environment in a company attracts a lot. And I think it's one of the things that the recruiters are doing very well right now.
Perfect. Thank you for this. One question that's coming up as well, and you'll be able to describe whether we are talking in health, pharma, or in startup structure regarding the let's say new talent acquisition. We already touched a bit, and what's regarding the new roles, whether it's before the pandemic with the digital transformation and the new ways of working during COVID. How do you see the needs evolving in recruitment?
Let me start because I just had a recruitment process which was very, very complex and difficult because we were looking for a doctor who was a specialty in informaticist. So it's not just because of COVID and the difficulties, but we see one of the things, and I let my colleagues say other things, but one of the things that is the most important right now, self-learning. So we want people who read, who listen to podcasts, who are subscribed to different great journals, or people who write about the trends that are happening in the market and in technology, etc. And we value most of the time the first people who said, "Yeah, I'm self or auto self-learner." If we find this, we don't get that matter about all the other skills because they demonstrate that they can learn what we are going to show to them in our organization. So that, to me, self-learning is one of the best things.
Yeah, I think picking up on that, I think one of the aspects that often gets overlooked when it comes to recruiting particularly for a company that's working in tech or using cutting edge technology in some ways is the role of your own technology on your ability to recruit, which comes back a little bit to what you guys were talking about in terms of demonstrating a path for personal development, and then that balanced against the available pool of talent. So you can be working with a technology that's extremely cutting edge, which means that anybody who joins you is going to learn a lot and they're going to feel like they're progressing and they're going to be, but the pool of available people who know that technology is tiny. Or you can be working with an older technology and everybody knows the technology, but you can't attract talent because it's boring. They're like, I've already know how to do that. So I think the role of your tech stack, as we say, in your ability to recruit really can't be underestimated. And I think only going to become more and more. I think, Carlos, you're right. People are looking to learn. I think you learn in school and then you go out and work and apply, learn. That's finished. I mean, get to market, the stuff you school is obsolete, anyways. People are in this constant learning mode, and I think building a business environment where you're pushing yourself as a way to push your people. And I think you're also right. There's a bit of a virtuous cycle there. So hiring people who want to learn, having opportunities to learn. But you can also take that too far and again end up in a situation where nobody knows how to do the things that you do. We've certainly been in that point early on in our business. It was extraordinarily difficult to hire people who had any experience doing what we were doing. We made a few adjustments to that, and to some degree, the talent pool has kind of caught up with some of the things that we're doing, and it's easier now than it used to be. But I think there's something there in that balance between cutting edge, not cutting edge enough, and that learning cycle that comes both with hiring people who want to learn and offering an environment where they can learn.
Yeah, let me add one thing to this loop that you said, or the challenge that this represents also. I think one of the other very key skills that we demand today, and it's very difficult to find good ones, is critical thinking. So if you do the self-learning with critical thinking, which is choosing really what you need to learn and how to apply it, it's superb. Very difficult to find, very difficult to master that. But we had some people who are like that, and they become the talent that advances our solutions every time.
True. And talking.
I was going to say, I was going to add something very traditional, but in healthcare, I would say marketing profiles are missing. I think we know how to kind of like, well, no, we need to learn how to communicate better what the value of what we do. We need to connect the technology with the journeys, no, and the patient, the caregivers, and the persona. And I think what we are missing for a long time, and I've been in the healthcare system from different perspectives, more than 12 years, and still missing this marketing piece, trying to connect the need or a pain with the technology that we can use to solve it. So for me, that's one piece. That's one big challenge that all the companies that belong to the healthcare system should be looking at, no, marketing profiles.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Paz. And one thing I wanted to add on this is regarding the tech recruitments, which are pretty challenging right now. All over Europe, we are doing recruitment, whether it's in France, in UK, and in Spain, and markets are being very tensed, and there's a shortage. Whether a shortage of a stack of technology need, whether you're talking about a startup or you're talking about a group, like Kim said, you're gonna have some new stacks, very appealing, with very few people being plug and play to contribute to the system, and you have the groups and with bigger side, a bit slower, a stack a bit older, not as appealing, but a bit more of structure, more teams, more hands to be developing things. So it's a bit of a balance. We do reckon that we do find people. It does take time. Time is key. Communication, like you all said, and ourselves as recruiters, our goal is to feed, whether it's our clients or candidates, so as much information, communicate as much during the whole process, so that there are no feeling of false promises, missions that are not what people did expect, whether it's from a company standpoint or a candidate standpoint, and so it's definitely key. It can be as well challenging on marketing profile, on sales profile, on product, on logistics, on C-level. But tech right now is becoming like it was actually in Spain and France, at least 4 or 5 years ago, with a very tense market on this. So that's what I would have to add on tech. Then regarding a question wanted to ask you as well is if each one of you in your own structure can describe what are the biggest incoming challenge in your company's talent acquisition strategy and people development as well. Who started?
Yeah, I can start. I see 3 in my case, and the first one is diversity. I don't know your experience, but it's very difficult to bring people from other sectors to healthcare. So for me, one is the diversity. The second one is the adaptation and retention. If you finally get this talent from other sector, which is going to bring a completely new way of thinking, you have to have the internal mechanisms to get the best out of this person, no, and to avoid this person to get frustrated, no, because sometimes we bring people with a great ideas, with a great experience, much more advanced in digital, coming from our sector, and put it there, but we don't change anything around that person, and this person gets really frustrated in a couple of months and leaves the company. So the cost of acquisition is so high and the ROI is so low. So this is another challenge that we need to look at. And the third one is, for me, is leadership. And it's not about the CEO, it's also the middle management, because those are going to be the ones that connect with the rest of the organization. No? So leadership is also the third challenge, I guess, in terms of talent acquisition.
Thank you, Paz. Carlos, Kim, what's your take on this?
I mean, I agree with Paz. 3 points, absolutely agree. And the last one about the leadership at the middle management and other levels, I completely agree. This is what really moves the needle. The one we have very specifically, and this is a big challenge for us, is to define the role so we can grab the correct talent. Let me give you the background to that. So when we have a product or a solution that requires knowledge of the pathways inside the hospital, they also need to know about Lean and Six Sigma optimization processes. We also want to have leadership, as Pat mentioned, and we also want to understand and have empathy with doctors and nurses. What do you look for? Do you look for an engineer? Do you look for a physician? Do you look for a nurse? Do you look for a manager? So to define exactly that and make the offer and communicate what we need to the world, it's extremely difficult because of the complexity of the healthcare environment. These positions are very complex to fill in, and deciding who are we going to take for those positions and what are the skills, we will never have 100% of what we look for, but this is the most complex things that we are facing right now and for the future, I think.
Yeah, from our side, I mean, I agree with what you guys have been saying. I want to point out, you're asking what some of the challenges are, but I'm actually going to start with something that's a little bit easier for all of us compared to a lot of other companies, which is that we work in healthcare. Path, you were saying before the importance of meaning, and I think that's so true. People are looking to make a positive contribution to the world. They're looking to have meaning in their lives. And if a candidate is looking at a job where their primary goal will be to get people to spend 3 more seconds on a website, or primary goal is to make patients' lives better, it's a pretty easy choice. So I think we actually have an enormous advantage in that all of us in the healthcare sector are doing very meaningful work. And that gives us actually a big advantage when it comes to over a lot of other industries. That said, Carlos, I really agree with you being specific about the healthcare sector, which is extraordinarily challenging, which is that for most organizations in this sector, we have a complexity of multiple stakeholders, and finding to understand all those stakeholders. Pat, you said before, marketing roles. I mean, there's a great example, super important, but a lot of companies in the healthcare sector, you're B2B2C, or you have to deal with physicians and providers and payers and patients. And, how do you find someone who's able to, in that kind of a stakeholder environment? And us as a business, we have an added complication, which is that we're in 26 countries, and healthcare systems are different everywhere in the world, not just culture and language, but more than that. And being able to navigate as a relatively small company operating in so many places, being able to find people who are even comfortable with that. And I guess the last thing for me, you guys have mentioned culture a few times. That's, I think, another. You want a strong company culture that attracts the right people, but that's one of those circular items. You have to have people who have the culture that you're trying to project with your company. We're opening an office in China at the moment. Remote like that hire, it's so critical. And so that's the third one, right? But you really need to make sure that you already see your culture and the people that you're hiring to maintain company culture in more distant offices. So I guess those are my thoughts on sort of some of the challenges, but again, also some of the advantages of being in the space.
Perfect. Thank you. And regarding people development and this, including that even on the new recruits, like people onboarding, being everything online, all still COVID, we're still COVID in, soon to be out, hopefully with vaccination systems. What are the, let's say, the ways, the new ways to onboard people, whether it's easy, complicated, and people development from the employees that are already in the project?
That's, I think, another enormous challenge that we haven't solved yet very well. And I think what Kim mentioned about the culture, it's really important, and then diversity. So we have people in Elsevier around the world. So when you onboard someone in Colombia or you onboard someone in China, the onboarding system is completely different. The way the formalities and everything is opposite sometimes. So for myself, for my experience being a manager, being Spanish and having big territories in South Europe, and not having the in-person onboarding is a big problem that we haven't solved. We have lots of Zoom conferences, we have one-to-one calls, we have calls with the team, but it's far from perfect. I would say I'm personally struggling sometimes to onboard people in this world with no contact. I definitely prefer contact and being in person with the people, especially with the onboarding. I don't know how to spread culture online. Really difficult.
Thank you, and perfect. And past talking about culture, about values, about how it does influence talent. What's your take on that, and from Unilab's perspective?
Yeah, I was going to say, no, I was going to interrupt Carlos, because in my case, and I'm going to promote this about my company, because Unilab has a really, really strong culture, and they call it Care Big, and it's very clear in terms of the value and the behaviors that the company is expecting from all the employees, and you can feel it even through the hiring process. And the onboarding process was great, was basically great, and was 100% virtual. And my responsibilities across 17 countries. So, but after 2 months in the company, almost 3, I feel that I'm part of this company. I understand the business, I understand the purpose, and basically the reason why it is because of this culture, this Care Big, no? So I think it's helping the brand, the company to stand out, but also, no, is kind of like helping us to do this extra mile when it is needed, no? So that's what I'm saying, no? Culture is the glue of all the organization. Doesn't matter where are you from. If you have a clear and strong culture, you know exactly the values and behavior that you need to follow, and you need to adapt. And then what you need is clear information, example. For instance, we have an internal kind of like social media channel where everybody is sharing examples of how they are using the culture to succeed in interacting with customer, interacting with other colleagues. So it is amazing, and I have to say it's the first time I see something like that in an organization, no? To be completely honest.
Perfect. Thank you.
I also think that onboarding, I haven't found it to be any more challenging. In fact, I think in some respects, because we've always been across multiple offices, there's always been a remote aspect to the onboarding anyways. And then, you just make adaptations. I haven't found the remote part to be, I mean, it's a little bit strange just because it's something new to be working with somebody met. But the actual practicalities of the process, I haven't found to be particularly challenging for those employees who we've onboarded during the situation.
Perfect. Thank you all. And one question regarding your role in as leaders in your companies. What do you identify you can do, the companies or personally you can do to improve talent acquisition and people development with all that transformation that's being around? Have you been able to identify new ways or? on the new tips around that?
The first one is find the right recruiter.
Agreed.
No, I mean, you know, I'm being cheeky here, but I do think there's something to that, and I think this comes back to that culture question, right? Because the truth is, we spend a lot of time thinking about who's the first point of contact. So that initial screening call that someone has, we want to make sure that, you know, the 99% of candidates who are not hired, right, that they also leave with a feeling that, oh, this is a great company, I was respected, I was treated well, this felt good, right? Like they get a sense of company culture and are join us. And I think the recruiters are part of that as well. Unfortunately, that's an industry that often has kind of aggressive people, maybe a little bit cutthroat. And if you should take that into account, because that also gives an impression about your own, frankly.
Completely true. I definitely relate on that. And with different, we do work with a lot of startups and so on, and culture and so on is always coming back, and having a good communication, whether it's with the person you do hire or with candidates that are not going through all the process all the way, leaving a good image. I can see it from the different many years I've been doing recruitment. You can see someone 2 years later cross his path again with a whole evolution and so on, and let's say credibility and a good image is always key for people to be listening to you and to be matching with your need, your DNA completely. Carlos, about that, what do you think?
Well, I was thinking about more the developing people more than the acquiring new talent. And when developing people, I share what Pat said about the mission. The mission is like the basic, the more, when you come to the feelings of the people and why we do the things we do. When you enter this conversation with people, and I tend to have conversations which come to the basic of human relationships, which is, what do you want? Why are you here? What do you do the things you do? And then you listen carefully. You listen to learn. You don't listen to answer to him. You listen to learn what he's saying. Then you find the way to develop the people we have. We have very different people, and you're not savvy to give advice to everyone. But if you listen to them, you find these basic things that people want. And I think now the COVID has impacted our mental health, every one of us, because we are more sensible, we are more sensitive to people. Going to this conversation at a very personal level allows us to start from there with the complete agreement of the people you have with you. And I think this is one of the most powerful tools to use with them. And I think it's very rewarding because we feel we are in the same field, in the same layer. That helps a lot to develop. And then you find in the company what you can do for these guys, and they also find them by themselves what they can do more for the company and for themselves.
I would say I would go back to acquisition, and I will copy something that Carlos mentioned at the beginning. And I think the organization are not using employees, ambassadors so much in hiring. And I think it's crucial to be able to listen to your future colleagues, what they think, how they feel as part of our organization. So I think companies and organizations should put more focus in empowering the employees to convert them in amplifiers or ambassadors, no, to attract talent. And the other thing is, I mentioned at the beginning, no, for me, social media are very good channels, not probably in the short term, but in the long, medium term, to be able to connect with a specific community of people, and just providing them content and interacting with them, you may connect with them and have an external talent pool that you can use, not to attract talent. Even if you think about young people, I mean, young people sometimes they are very hard to the rising star people, So these kind of new ways of connecting with them, which require more time, patience, providing them some valuable information, will help companies to really attract these rising stars, no, that sometimes are very difficult to find.
Yep, completely perfect. Great. One question I do have as well is we did speak about employer branding, we did speak about the employees, about people development, and so on. The interaction and the evolution you can have with the ways to interact between the different stakeholders in your companies, whether it's from investor to employee to client to partner and so on. And like what did you feel since, let's say, since the pandemic or in new way? How does this everything evolve, and does it make you have to adapt a bit into your hiring process or to your employee engagement systems or not?
François, I don't think I did understand the question.
I
was.
Can you clarify?
Okay.
Because I don't know what to answer.
I hope it was my accent and nothing more. No, I was saying like whether it's talking about employee talent acquisition or employee development, like with the pandemic, when you do speak, whether it's clinical, it's pharma, it's healthcare, if you do have stakeholders within insurance, with your tech partners, what's the evolution of those relationships that you do have?
You mean relationships outside of recruitment? For example, with clients.
Exactly.
I'd be happy to speak to that. Yeah. So I think what's one of the most interesting things that I've really noticed is, so there used to be this typical, okay, you're a smaller company working with very large organizations as we are. There's this power dynamic where, you say, oh, can we have a meeting? And they say, yeah, sure. Let me know next time you're in London. Right? and that is right, which could be in 3 months, right? And that whole dynamic is out the window now. There's no more excuse, right? Like they're either interested or they're not interested. There's no more let me know next time. It's like you either meet next week or you don't have a meeting. And we've noticed a real acceleration. I mean, again, this is probably general for the healthcare sector. It's certainly true for the telemedicine space where we are. There's been a huge acceleration just in the business generally. But I think there's something that's happened to the sales cycle with investors, with clients, and also to some degree with candidates, that the fact that you essentially have a greater convenience for lower quality interactions, basically, right? So the interactions are definitely higher quality face to face, but they're also more difficult to generate. And I think it's interesting now, when you're forced to have these more convenient, lower quality interactions, it raises the question, what should the balance be? When is it better to have the convenience, and when is it better to have the quality? And don't let the one get in the way of the other. So from our perspective, it's been a real accelerator, the fact that we can have, it's been enormously helpful, particularly for business development out in Asia. It's been great, so much easier than it used to be, because everybody's more available, everybody's more willing to engage in faster conversations. And I think that's probably true for candidates as well.
Well, I would add exactly the opposite, Kim. I'm sorry to say. So in my perspective, or in my experience this past, let's say, 16 months, it's been harder than ever to connect with people, especially at the C-level suite, let's say. And I think it is because they are exhausted. I mean, the healthcare sector, I connect with hospitals, with people managing regions, regional governments, national governments, etc. They are exhausted with the pandemic. So now there's someone from Elsevier that wants to connect with them. Sorry, put yourself in the queue, and probably it will be the next time you are in London. So it's been harder than ever to connect by email. And it's probably because the formal relationships in person at that level are more important, and you need this, let's say, quality connection, which is less time maybe, but more intense. And probably because of that, we have been trying to manage other channels, other ways of connecting. But I would say for us, has been really, really hard to make those connections.
And I am going to stay in the middle because I agree with Kim in terms of to get a yes is pretty easy. The agendas are pretty available because there's no excuse, no? I mean, it's pretty easy to find half an hour in an agenda just to have a chat. But in terms of quality meetings where you can really set up things or get an agreement or get a good negotiation, from my perspective, it's been quite difficult, to be honest. And if you think about our sector, people is so used to do things face to face, and that the pandemic somehow it's been an excuse to somehow stop many things, no? Or that's my perspective, no? Because they keep thinking, okay, this is going to be over very quick, so I will wait to see you in a couple of months, no? So that's why I'm saying I'm in the middle. No? Although everybody is really open to be digital and to use digital channels to connect and to do everything, I wouldn't say it's 100% true, no? You need to have this face-to-face to really move forward with things.
And just to add on that, and talk about what Kim said was easier, I found it especially hard to maintain a good relationship. I did some good relations in Mexico, in Colombia, Chile, etc., where my territories are, with people managing hospitals, or as I said before, regions, etc. But how do you keep the relationship 1.5 years without going there, meeting with them? By email, it's difficult because they receive hundreds of emails. By telephone, yes, sometimes. But this relationship, it's colder and colder. And that's why I say it's different, and I need to reach out again, and I need to reconnect with them again.
Yeah, I think this seems like it's perhaps product sector specific, as it depends a little bit on what you're selling, how you're selling it, what the post-sales relationship looks like as well. Yeah, it's actually quite interesting to hear that perspective, that our experience isn't necessarily universal.
Yeah, completely, and not just in health. From our standpoint, like we are talking with a lot of different companies, startup going from 10 people and hyper growth, or companies being 200, 300, 500 people. There's actually no rule about it. When you're talking about tech profile, IT profiles, for example, most of them, and we're talking about the candidate side with all the different candidates we do speak with, most of them are asking remote. People are willing to have new ways of working, new ways of engaging. But we do meet, especially where in senior profiles, people who do want to connect again. And when I say senior, it's like 5-6 years experience in their field, and people willing to have to gain momentum, sharing a coffee with co-workers, being able to talk about their to solve problems together, to be creative, to generate ideas. And you don't really do it like being, whether in your home or in a co-working space by yourself or so on. Something is missing. So something is added. No need to take a bus, a metro, a train, a plane, or whatever to go to a meeting. It's all very much now and good, but something is missing as well about the whole social point, the whole social thing of having a team. Is definitely a point, whether it's on a client, on a company standpoint, even on a candidate standpoint, is something that's clearly it needs to come back, whether it's on a flex, whether it's even being on full remote position and coming and meeting once a month, once every 2 months, once every quarter, whatever. But there's a need being felt on the candidate side as well. We do speak with quite a lot of them. Perfect. Great. So thank you. I think we've been rounding the topic. Does anybody want to add anything before we close the session?
No.
No? Okay. Do we have any questions? No question, I think, in the audience. It's now or never. No, okay, but if we don't have any questions, so I just want to take some time to thank Paz, Kim, and Carlos. Thanks a lot for your contribution. Thanks to Barcelona Health Hub to allow us to speak and to talk about the challenges in recruitment and many other topics that are directly connected to recruitment, onboarding, employee engagement, and development, and so on. We do look forward to be speaking with you, to be meeting with you, to be challenged and to be developing on other ideas that can make us improve. And Aline, I'm going to give the mic to you to close the session. So.
Thank you very much. Thank you, François. And thank you for that great session. And thank you to all the speakers, Carlos, Kim, Paz. I think it was a very interesting session, very dynamic, very engaging. And I really enjoyed your different perspective and disagreement as well. That was great. We love sessions like that. And so remember that if you want to discuss your personal human resources needs, you can you can get in touch with François' team. And as I mentioned at the beginning, on the 9th and 10th of June, there will be open office hours with digital selection. So presential at Hub. So if you've never been to Barcelona Health Hub, that's a chance to come and to see our amazing offices, or you can also do it online. So I just pasted the link in the chat. So if you go on the chat, kindly just book a time there. So for the next BHH series, it will take place on the 16th of June, and it will be organized in collaboration with bBrand, and we will talk about apps for the patients in the surgery setting. So see you all on the 16th of June at 6 p.m. And remember that if you want to view or review the videos from BHH series, you can go on Barcelona Health Hub YouTube channel, and they're all there for you. So thank you very much. Thanks again, François, Carlos, Kim, Paz, and have a great evening. See you on the 16th of June. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
François?